The morning started the same way most mornings did for him. The alarm went off before the sun came up, and he lay still for a few seconds, staring at the cracked ceiling above his bed. The room was small, quiet, and cold. He listened to the soft sound of his daughter breathing from the other room. That sound alone was enough to make him get up. He moved carefully so he would not wake her. His back hurt from long hours of work, and his hands were rough and dry. He washed his face in the sink, looking at himself in the mirror. The man staring back looked older than his years. Deep lines sat around his eyes, and his shoulders carried a weight that never seemed to lift. He dressed in clean but worn clothes and stepped into the kitchen. The fridge was almost empty. A little milk, a few eggs, and bread that was going stale. He sighed quietly and began making breakfast. Soon, small footsteps padded into the kitchen. His daughter stood there, rubbing her eyes, her hair messy from sleep. She smiled when she saw him. That smile always made the hard parts of life feel lighter. They sat at the small table and ate together. He asked her about school, and she talked about a drawing she wanted to finish. She asked if they could go somewhere nice that evening. He hesitated, then nodded. He did not want to disappoint her. He rarely had money left for treats, but he had saved a little. After dropping her off at school, he went to work. The day passed slowly. He lifted boxes, cleaned floors, and took orders with tired legs and a polite face. No matter how hard he worked, it never seemed to be enough. Bills piled up, and worries followed him everywhere. As evening came, he picked up his daughter. She held his hand tightly as they walked. She talked about her day, laughing and pointing at things on the street. He listened closely, nodding, even though his mind was full of stress. They stopped in front of a small diner near the road. The sign flickered, and the windows glowed warm inside. It was not fancy, but it felt safe and familiar. He had been there before, many times. Usually when he needed a cheap meal and a place to rest out inside, the smell of food wrapped around him. The diner was busy but calm. People talked softly, cups clinked, and a radio played an old song in the background. He chose a booth near the window. His daughter slid in happily, swinging her legs. He looked at the menu, carefully counting in his head. He ordered something simple for both of them. As they waited, he watched his daughter trace shapes on the table with her finger. She looked peaceful. Seeing her like that made every sacrifice feel worth it. Then the door opened again. The sound was not loud, but it drew attention. A tall man walked in, dressed neatly, followed by a woman who moved with quiet confidence. The man wore an expensive suit, and his watch caught the light. He did not act proud, but his presence was strong. People noticed. The woman beside him looked calm, yet there was something guarded in her eyes. She wore simple clothes, but they were clearly high quality. She scanned the room slowly before sitting at a table near the center. The single dad noticed them, but only for a moment. People like that lived in a different world. He returned his attention to his daughter, but his daughter froze. Her hand stopped moving. Her eyes locked onto the table where the woman sat. At first, he thought she was just curious. Then he saw her face change. Her mouth opened slightly, and her eyes filled with something he could not understand. He leaned closer. "What is it?" he asked gently. She did not answer. Before he could stop her, she slid out of the booth. Her small feet moved fast across the floor. Chairs scraped as people turned to look. He stood up quickly, panic rising in his chest. She ran straight to the woman's table. "Mom," she said clearly. The words seemed to hang in the air. The diner went silent. Forks paused mid-air. Conversation stopped. The woman looked up sharply. Her face drained of color. For a moment, she looked like she might fall. The man in the suit stood instantly, stepping between the child and the woman, his face alert. The single dad reached them, breathless. His heart pounded. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly, embarrassed and confused. She must be mistaken. But his daughter grabbed the woman's hand. "I know you," she said softly. "I never forgot your face." The woman's eyes filled with tears. The single dad felt the world tilt. His mind raced back through memories he had tried to bury. Late nights, empty promises, a woman who left without saying goodbye, a story that never made sense. The woman slowly stood. Her hands trembled. She looked at the child, then at him. "I never meant for this," she whispered. People stared. The staff stood frozen. The man in the suit looked from one to the other, his jaw tight. The single dad's voice shook. "What is going on?" The woman swallowed hard. "We need to talk," she said, Doc, and just like that, a simple dinner became the moment that changed everything. He looked down at his daughter, then back at the woman he once loved, realizing that the past he thought was gone had just walked back into his life. The diner had returned to a quiet tension. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the faint music on the radio remained. The single dad felt a cold sweat on his forehead. His daughter stood beside the woman, looking up with wide eyes filled with recognition. She did not seem afraid, only relieved, as if a long-lost puzzle piece had finally clicked into place. The woman knelt slowly to meet her daughter at eye level. She reached out and gently held the small hands. Her voice was soft and trembled just slightly. "It's really you," she whispered. His heart thumped in his chest. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words froze. He had so many questions racing through his mind. Who was this woman really? Why had she left? How had she stayed hidden all this time? The man in the suit, still standing nearby, cleared his throat. "Excuse me," he said calmly but firmly. "Perhaps we should step somewhere private." The woman nodded, still holding the child close. She glanced back at him with eyes full of apology and sorrow. "I'll explain everything," she said softly. "Please, just trust me for a moment." The single dad followed cautiously, keeping his distance but never letting go of his daughter's presence. They moved to a quiet corner of the diner where fewer eyes could see them. His daughter clung to the woman's hand, her little fingers wrapped tightly around hers. The woman took a deep breath, as if trying to gather the strength to speak. "Years ago," she began slowly, "I had to leave. I had no choice. There were people, dangers I couldn't tell you about. I thought leaving would keep you safe." The single dad's eyes narrowed. "Leaving me? Leaving her? How could you think that was better?" His voice cracked. He wanted to stay calm, but the flood of years without answers made it impossible. She flinched slightly, as if his words stung. "I know it seems cruel," she said. "I didn't plan to disappear, but I was forced to. They wouldn't let me be a mother openly. I had to hide. I tried to send messages, to watch from a distance, but every attempt was blocked. I always hoped you would understand one day." His daughter tilted her head, sensing the tension, but not fully comprehending it. "Mom, why did you leave me?" she asked simply. The woman's eyes glistened with tears. "I thought I was protecting you. I wanted to keep you safe from everything I couldn't fight yet. I never stopped thinking about you. Every night I knew you would be happy and loved, even if it wasn't with me." The single dad's chest felt tight. The woman's words stirred something in him. Part anger, part relief, and part deep sadness. He had spent years struggling alone, wondering why she had vanished without a trace. And now she was here, standing before him, holding the child who had been his entire world. He swallowed hard and tried to steady his voice. "Do you know how hard it has been? How every day I worried about her, about us?" She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I know. I never stopped knowing. I've followed you both in secret, trying to make sure you were safe. It was unbearable to watch from afar. The single dad shook his head slightly. So, all these years you stayed hidden, and we were left to guess? I didn't have a choice, she said, her voice low but firm. I couldn't risk being seen. There were people who would have taken her away, or worse. I wanted to be close, but I had to stay away. He looked at his daughter, who now rested her head lightly against the woman's shoulder. He felt a mixture of fear and hope. He had raised her alone, taught her right from wrong, and tried to fill the absence of a mother as best he could. And yet, she had a mother here. Finally, the woman turned to him, desperation in her eyes. I am not here to take her away. I want to be a part of her life, if you allow me. I don't want to erase what you have built. You have done so much for her, and I am grateful. I just want a chance to be a mother too. The single dad paused, letting her words sink in. He thought about the nights he cried quietly in his apartment, the meals he skipped so his daughter could eat, the sacrifices he had made. Could he trust her? Could he allow someone who had disappeared to suddenly be part of their lives? He looked at his daughter, who looked back at him with wide, hopeful eyes. There was no bitterness there, only innocence and longing. Her small hand found his and squeezed it tightly. He realized that maybe, just maybe, the world was giving them a second chance. Let's sit down, he said slowly, finally letting his voice soften. He gestured to a nearby booth. The woman nodded and took a seat, still holding her daughter's hand. The man in the suit remained standing, giving them space, but keeping a careful watch. The conversation was quiet at first. The woman told small stories, memories of her own childhood, and how she had dreamed of the day she could reunite with her child. She avoided the dangerous details, but hinted at the life she had been forced into hiding. The single dad listened, occasionally asking questions, mostly just trying to absorb the truth he had been denied for so long. His daughter asked about everything, her curiosity boundless. Did you think about me every day? She asked. Yes, every single day, the woman said softly. I thought about you when I woke up and when I went to sleep. I imagined what you looked like, what you were doing, even what you were eating. I never stopped. Tears rolled down the single dad's face. He realized that the child he had raised alone had carried hope in her heart, hope that her mother would return. And now, that hope was here. They stayed talking for a long time, slowly piecing together the story that had been torn apart by circumstances beyond their control. The diner staff watched quietly, and other customers returned to their meals, pretending nothing had happened, but the energy in the air had changed. A quiet miracle had occurred in that small place, unnoticed by most, but life-changing for 3 people. The woman finally stood, glancing at him and then at their daughter. I don't expect everything to be perfect, she said. I just want a chance to make things right, to be part of her life. The single dad nodded slowly, feeling the weight on his shoulders lift just a little. He could not promise that everything would be easy. There would be questions, doubts, and challenges. But he could promise this. They would face it together, carefully, one step at a time. The daughter jumped up and hugged both of them. And in that small, quiet diner, something shifted. A family that had been separated by fear and circumstance began to reconnect. It was messy, complicated, and emotional, but it was real. The man in the suit finally relaxed slightly, seeing the child safe and the initial shock settling. He would be a quiet presence in the background, protecting them if needed, but not intruding. The real work of healing was just beginning. A single dad realized that life had thrown them a curveball, but perhaps it had also given them a second chance. A chance to rebuild what had been lost, to bring understanding where there had been confusion, and to finally let love guide them forward. The diner had settled into a quiet rhythm. But at their corner booth, a storm of emotion swirled. The woman, holding her daughter's small hands, tried to explain a life full of shadows and secrets. She spoke softly, her voice calm but weighted with the pain of years gone by. "I want you to know why I had to leave," she said. "It was never about not loving you. It was about keeping you safe, my family. They were not the kind of people who could understand a child's needs. They were powerful, and they didn't care about me, or about what was right. If I stayed, they would have taken you, and I could never let that happen." The single dad leaned back, trying to absorb the words. He had expected a story, but not one like this. He had imagined her absence was a choice, a rejection. Now it became clear it was survival. Powerful how? He asked, his voice quiet but firm. "Who were these people?" Her eyes flicked to the man in the suit, and then back to him. "My life was complicated. Wealthy, yes, but dangerous in ways you wouldn't understand. I had to hide to live freely, and that meant leaving you behind. I watched from a distance, but I could never reach you openly. Every attempt was blocked." The single dad felt anger rise again. How could she have been so close yet so far? He had done everything alone, and she had been out there, watching. But mixed with the anger was relief. She had not forgotten. She had thought of them both every day. His daughter listened intently, her small hands fidgeting. "But why now?" she asked. "Why come back now?" The woman took a deep breath. "I found a way to be safe. The people who made me hide are no longer able to control my life. I can be part of yours without danger. I have waited for the right moment, but I never knew it would be this sudden." The single dad rubbed his forehead. It was a lot to take in. Everything he had built, the life they had struggled through, and now this new revelation. He had to be careful. Not for himself, but for his daughter. "I have questions," he said finally. "A lot of questions. I need to understand why you couldn't write, call, anything. We have missed years. You don't just get to show up and explain everything and expect it to be fine." She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I know, and I am sorry. I can never undo the years we lost. I can only move forward with honesty and patience. I want to be honest now, and I want you to know that I respect everything you have done for her. I know you kept her safe and loved her every day." He felt his anger soften slightly. She wasn't here to take over. She was here to make amends, to rebuild trust slowly. That was something he could consider, if cautiously. The daughter, sensing the tension, squeezed both their hands together. "I just want us to be a family," she said quietly. "I don't want to fight. I just want to see you both happy together." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight the adults could not ignore. The single dad looked at his daughter and then at the woman. There was innocence and hope there, and it reminded him why he had kept going all these years. It wasn't about money, comfort, or pride. It was about love. The woman smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her daughter's ear. "I want that too," she said. "I want to build a family again. I don't expect everything to be perfect, and I know we have a long way to go, but I am willing to try." The single dad nodded slowly. "We will try," he said, "but we go slowly. Every step needs to be thought through. I have to protect her, no matter what. You need to understand that." "I do," she said firmly. "And I promise I will never interfere with your role as her father. I only want to be part of her life, not replace you. You have been her world, and I respect that." A silence fell over them, filled with the weight of everything they had lost and the hope of what they could regain. It was a complicated silence, a mix of pain, relief, and cautious optimism. The single dad finally leaned back, allowing himself a moment to breathe. He realized that the woman's return was not just about her. It was about all three of them. They had to find a way to connect, to trust each other, and to face the future together. The diner's hum and chatter returned to their usual rhythm. But at their booth, a fragile sense of peace began to form. The woman shared more stories about her past, careful not to frighten the child, giving glimpses of a world she had been forced to navigate alone. The daughter listened eagerly, eyes wide with wonder. "Will you come see me at school?" The daughter asked shyly. "I would love to," the woman said. "When it's okay with you both?" The single dad hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "We can try that. We need to be careful, but yes, we can try." Hours passed, and the diner's lights grew warmer as evening settled outside. They shared a simple meal, laughing quietly at small jokes and memories. The tension had not fully lifted, but it had softened. There was a possibility of trust forming, slowly, carefully. One day at a time, the man in the suit finally stepped forward, signaling it was time to leave. The woman stood, holding her daughter's hand tightly. She turned to the single dad. "I want you to know I am here to help. Not control, not replace. Just to help. And if you ever say stop, I will listen." He nodded. He could see the sincerity in her eyes, the honesty in her words. It was a start, fragile but real. Outside the diner, the night air was cool and quiet. The three of them walked slowly, taking small steps toward a life that had been interrupted. The streets were calm, and for the first time in a long time, the single dad felt a tiny spark of hope. The past had been painful, but the future could be different. His daughter held both their hands, smiling softly. She was the bridge between them, innocent yet strong, reminding them both what mattered most. The single dad realized that love could endure even the darkest times. It could heal, rebuild, and guide them forward, if only they allowed it. As they reached the corner where their paths would separate for the night, the woman knelt again to speak to her daughter. "Tomorrow, we will take it one step at a time," she said. "No rush, no pressure. Just us, slowly becoming a family again." The daughter nodded, and the single dad squeezed her hand. He felt a mixture of fear and excitement. It would not be easy. Life rarely was. But maybe, just maybe, they could do it together. The next few days were quiet and tense, filled with small, careful steps. The single dad tried to continue his routine while keeping the new reality in mind. He worried about the right way to handle the situation, balancing caution with openness. Every decision was measured, weighed carefully for the benefit of his daughter. His daughter, however, could not hide her excitement. She chattered endlessly about the brief time she had spent with her mother in the diner. Her questions were endless. Why did Mom leave? What did she do every day? Could she really see her again? Each question was met with patience and sometimes frustration from the single dad, but he never stopped listening. He realized that the child's curiosity and hope were gifts, guiding them through this delicate moment. The woman reached out again, carefully this time, suggesting small, gentle interactions. She wanted to write letters, send photos, or meet in public places where the father could feel safe. She never pushed, but always showed her willingness to be present. The single dad watched her closely, studying her sincerity, gauging whether she truly understood the boundaries and the care required. It was a challenging balance. He wanted his daughter to know her mother, to feel loved in both worlds. But he also wanted to protect her from hurt, disappointment, and confusion. Life had already been difficult enough without introducing more uncertainty. One evening, the woman suggested they all take a walk in a nearby park. The father hesitated, worried about strangers or unexpected dangers, but finally agreed. They walked slowly, the child skipping a few steps ahead, stopping to point at flowers, birds, and squirrels. It was a small, ordinary outing, yet heavy with significance. During the walk, the woman spoke softly about ordinary things at first. The weather, small childhood memories, favorite foods. She wanted to build comfort, to create a connection that did not feel rushed or forced. The single dad observed silently, appreciating her effort while keeping a mental distance, ensuring nothing could disrupt the child's sense of security. They found a bench near a pond and sat quietly. The mother and daughter talked about school, friends, and favorite stories. The father listened, heart swelling and aching at the same time. The child laughed freely, her innocence shining through the years of hardship. He realized that this joy was worth the careful, cautious steps they had to take. After a while, the conversation shifted. The mother spoke about her life in hiding, the difficult choices she had to make, and the regrets she carried. Her voice was calm, but filled with honesty. She did not seek forgiveness yet. She only wanted understanding. The single dad finally spoke, his tone steady but firm. "I need to be clear," he said. "You were gone for years. We have lived without answers, and now everything changes suddenly. I cannot just forget the past. I cannot let my daughter get hurt again." "I understand," she replied without hesitation. "I am not here to erase the past or pretend it didn't happen. I only want to move forward carefully with your guidance. I want to respect the life you have built with her." The father felt a small shift inside him. Her words matched her actions, and that mattered. Trust would take time, but he could see a willingness to earn it. That was the first step. The daughter, sensing the serious tone, held both their hands. "Can we just be together for now?" she asked softly. "I don't want to think about rules or mistakes. I just want us all to be together." The father's heart ached at her words. She had been the center of his life for so long, and now she wanted a mother too. He realized that protecting her meant allowing her to love and be loved by both parents. That would not be easy, but it was necessary. They walked back slowly, taking small detours, letting the daughter point out birds and flowers. The mother and father exchanged glances, unspoken communication passing between them. They were learning to navigate a new reality, aware of each other's boundaries, fears, and hopes. Over the next few weeks, they met in quiet, controlled ways. Sometimes in public parks, sometimes at the diner during off hours. Each meeting was deliberate, designed to maintain safety and comfort. The single dad remained cautious, but he could see his daughter blooming in ways he had only dreamed of. She laughed more freely, shared her thoughts without hesitation, and showed genuine curiosity and affection for her mother. During one meeting, the mother brought a small photo album of memories she had kept for her daughter. Pictures from infancy, early school days, small celebrations, all moments the father had captured alone. The child's eyes widened as she recognized herself, as she giggled at her baby pictures. The mother smiled, tears sliding down her cheeks. "This is who you were," the mother said softly. "And this is who you are now. You have grown strong and kind, and I am proud of you every day, even when I was far away." The single dad felt his chest tighten. He had worked tirelessly to provide, to nurture, and to guide. Now he realized that love and pride could be shared. He was no longer alone in this journey, though the path remained careful and deliberate. There were moments of tension, of doubt, and questions about boundaries. The father and mother discussed rules, routines, and expectations. They learned to communicate without confrontation, to listen without judgment. Their child became the reason they were patient, compassionate, and careful. Slowly, a fragile trust began to form. The single dad noticed the mother's consistent presence, her patience, and her honesty. The daughter thrived in this environment, her happiness visible in small smiles, laughter, and shared stories. One evening, as they sat quietly at the diner, The mother spoke softly to the father. "I know it is hard," she said. "I know you are protecting her. I only ask that we try to work together, for her sake." He nodded. "We will try. Every step has to be careful. But yes, we will try. For her." The child leaned between them, hugging both parents. In that moment, the single dad realized that life, though difficult and unpredictable, could offer second chances. It would not be easy. There would be challenges, questions, and emotional hurdles. But with care, patience, and love, they could face them together. The night grew late, and they parted with small, tentative plans for the next meeting. The single dad watched his daughter walk away with her mother, feeling a mix of fear, hope, and cautious optimism. He knew the road ahead would be complicated, but he also knew that the most important thing had been restored: the possibility of family, love, and trust, carefully rebuilt, step by step. The following weeks became a delicate dance of trust, patience, and love. Every meeting between the single dad, his daughter, and the woman who had returned to their lives was measured and intentional. No one rushed, no one forced interaction. Each small step was celebrated quietly, as though every moment of connection was a fragile treasure to be protected. The daughter blossomed in this new arrangement. She laughed more freely, asked questions without hesitation, and shared little stories from her day with both parents. The single dad watched with pride and relief, realizing that the child who had grown under his care alone now had the gift of her mother's presence, and it only added to her happiness. One afternoon, they decided to spend the day at a small community park. The sun shone warmly, children ran around the playground, and the air was filled with the distant laughter of families. The daughter led the way, excitedly showing them swings, slides, and the small pond where ducks paddled. It was a simple day, ordinary by anyone else's standards, but for them, it was monumental. They sat on a bench, sharing snacks and stories. The woman spoke softly about her time away, the obstacles she had faced, and the things she had learned. Her tone was honest and reflective, never heavy, never attempting to rewrite the past. The single dad listened, sometimes asking questions, sometimes just observing, careful not to let any lingering resentment show too strongly. The daughter's eyes sparkled with curiosity and wonder, bridging the gap that years of separation had left behind Dot at one point. The daughter ran ahead to feed the ducks, laughing as the birds came close. The mother followed, holding her hands out gently, while the father trailed behind, watching closely but allowing space. It was a moment of pure connection, small but meaningful. The single dad felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't realized he'd been missing, a sense of completeness that had been absent for so long. Later, they found a quiet spot under a large oak tree. The mother pulled out a small notebook filled with sketches and little notes she had kept for her daughter, things she thought she might share one day. Each page told a story, capturing memories and feelings that had been locked away. The daughter's eyes widened as she recognized events from her earliest years, and she laughed at some of the funny little drawings. The mother's eyes shone with tears, but her smile was gentle, filled with love and hope. The single dad watched quietly, emotions swirling. He realized that the love he had held for his daughter all these years was now shared, not diminished. The presence of her mother did not threaten him. It enriched the child's life. And slowly, he began to trust that they could navigate this new reality together. Evenings were now spent with small, controlled interactions. Sometimes at the diner, sometimes at the park, occasionally in their apartment, under careful supervision. Each meeting strengthened the bond, though it remained a careful balance of trust and protection. The daughter began to see that the family she wanted, a family with both parents, could be a reality. And the single dad learned that letting go of fear did not mean losing control. It meant embracing the possibility of love in a broader sense. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the city, they sat on the steps of their apartment building. The daughter snuggled between them, sharing stories from school, while the parents listened and responded. The conversation was light, filled with laughter and gentle teasing. It was ordinary, yet extraordinary in the context of their journey. The single dad turned to the woman, a calm resolve in his eyes. "We've come a long way," he said, "and I think we can keep going. But we need to remember that every step matters. No rushing, no taking each other for granted. Our child needs us to be patient and careful." The mother nodded, holding his gaze. "I understand. I will do whatever it takes to build trust and be there for her. I am not here to replace you, only to be part of her life, honestly and openly." Their daughter hugged them both tightly, smiling between them. "Can we just stay like this for a while?" she asked softly. "I like us together." "Yes," they both replied. "We can stay like this." Over time, the mother became a consistent presence in their lives, attending school events, helping with homework, and sharing small, everyday moments. She never forced attention, never overstepped boundaries. The single dad observed, gradually allowing himself to relax, realizing that this was not a threat but a gift. The daughter thrived in the new environment. Her laughter was more frequent, her confidence grew, and she carried herself with a sense of security and belonging she had not experienced fully before. The single dad marveled at her resilience, understanding that their journey together had given her a foundation of strength and love. On a quiet Sunday, they returned to the diner where it all began. The staff greeted them warmly, remembering the day that had changed everything. They shared a simple meal, laughter flowing naturally. The single dad watched his daughter talk to her mother, a small hand resting comfortably on the table between them. It was a picture of what they had built together, delicate yet strong. Afterward, they walked through the nearby streets, enjoying the simplicity of ordinary life. The sun dipped low, painting the sky with warm colors. The mother, holding her daughter's hand, glanced at the single dad. "We've made it this far," she said softly. "I know it hasn't been easy, but I believe we can keep building, slowly and carefully." He nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. The years of struggle, the nights of worry, the sacrifices, they had led to this moment. He understood that life would continue to bring challenges, but the foundation they had built together, guided by love, patience, and understanding, was strong. The daughter skipped ahead, turning back to wave at them. Her happiness was contagious, a reminder that the heart of this story was not the hardships or the obstacles, but the simple human connections that could heal and transform lives. As they walked home, the single dad held both their hands, feeling the warmth and trust that had grown between them. He realized that family was not about perfection, wealth, or control. It was about showing up, caring deeply, and taking the time to understand and love each other. The night settled in around them, quiet and calm. They reached their apartment, but the sense of togetherness lingered. They were not just surviving anymore. They were living, healing, and growing together. The child's laughter echoed through the halls, a sound that symbolized hope, resilience, and the power of love. In the small moments, the shared meal, a gentle walk, the quiet conversation, they had found something priceless, the possibility of a future built on trust, understanding, and shared joy. Life would not be without challenges, but they had learned that love, patience, and care could navigate even the most difficult paths. The single dad, watching his daughter and her mother interact, felt a sense of contentment he had never known. They had all been through so much, yet here they were, together, step by step, creating a new chapter. The past could not be changed, but the future was theirs to shape. As the daughter fell asleep that night, safe and loved, the single dad, and the mother shared a quiet moment. A simple acknowledgement of the journey they had undertaken. Words were unnecessary. The warmth in their hearts said it all. Life had tested them, pushed them to the limits, and challenged their understanding of family. But in the end, it had also given them something extraordinary, the chance to rebuild, to love deeply, and to create a life where the past no longer held power, and the future was full of promise and hope.